Hello, world. YouTube, Brian, how's it going?
Hey, great.
Good. We got just a couple things to cover today, huh?
Quite a few.
All right, let's jump on in. Hello, and welcome to Python Bytes, where we deliver Python news and headlines directly to your earbuds. This is episode 448, recorded September 8th, 2025. I'm Michael Kennedy.
And I'm Brian Ocken.
September reminds me of Green Day, Brian. A little Green Day song. Wake me when September's over. I can't believe it's September.
Listened to Green Day for a while. Yeah.
I know. Well,
Now I got to.
now you got to. All right. So this episode is brought to you by us. Support all of our things, even our archived podcasts for those of us who have archived podcasts, but courses, books, you know about them by now, but it genuinely really supports the show when you use our things. We really appreciate it.
Yep.
If you want to watch live, just pythonbytes.fm/live will take you right there. Like if you went there right now, the YouTube video, I believe it's even playing right there as we speak. You go there afterwards. It's just a picture. It says we're offline. Click it. It'll take you to all the recordings. So really appreciate that. Of course, the audio on the podcast version is edited. This is the live, uncut, bootleg version, if you will. So very fun. And subscribe to the newsletter. Brian's putting a lot of work into getting a really nice extra info sort of thing, background info, more info, not just a summary of links for every episode. So there's more to get from the email as well. Now, Brian, I'm interested to see what more you got for us. Let's start there.
Well, I do want to talk about Prec, but first I want to talk about the newsletter just for a second because you always give me credit, but it is a joint effort. We're both doing work to get that newsletter out. So I appreciate
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm really glad how it's turning out.
Okay, so let's switch to Prec, but Prec is a pre-commit thing, and in episode 447 we talked about pre-commit, and actually again we've talked about it a bunch, but we recently, it was on 447, we talked about using UV to help it make things faster. So that was on the going down a rat hole episode. So but somebody, lots of people actually, but the one I have bookmarked was Owen Lamont said, "Hey, here's another dev tool you might want to check out. It's Prec. It's pre-commit re-implemented in Rust." And we're kind of used to that, right? We got a lot of tools that are re-implemented in Rust, so why not check it out? So Prec I tried it out this morning. It's pretty cool, actually. So Prec is pre-commit with Rust. There's a warning on the site that says, "Hey, it's not production ready yet. A few sub commands and languages are still in the works." And so, as a reminder, pre-commit is not just for Python. Pre-commit does other languages too. It's a sort of a general purpose pre-commit tool that you can configure get pre-commit hooks. So there's actually quite a few things you can do with pre-commit, but Prec is pretty cool, and I checked it out. The projects that I tried it on worked fine. So why do we care about this? Because pre-commit, like what it does is it downloads these extra tools to run against your repo, but it that download time, it caches that stuff. So there were a lot of people talking about how fast it is for its a faster install and stuff. And I do care about the 10x faster install and a third of the disk space. Less disk space is nice. So it's got smaller cache apparently. But when you're using pre-commit a lot, it's the install time isn't what you care about. It's the runtime when you're actually running the tool. So I check that out. So right out of the box, it was significantly faster. If you just had turn on a few the default pre-commit hooks, I noticed that it was like a second and a half or something like that to run it through pre-commit with UV, and then but it's not going to really be much of a difference after everything's installed. And then and then Prec was like, I don't know, less half a second or something. So it was significantly faster, but it's in those little tiny ranges. So I did check it out with I've got tabs up. there's some. Oh, one of I. I'll come back to this, but I checked it out on a larger project. So I do contribute to PyTest once in a while, and PyTest has a bunch of pre-commit hooks and other things set up, and it takes, I don't know, 4.5 seconds to run all the pre-commit hooks for PyTest on my machine, and that's after a warm cache. Uh, so with Prec, that should be faster, right? And it was faster, but it was like 3.5 seconds. So it is faster, but percentage wise, I'm not sure if it's worth I mean, sure, why not? It's worth jumping. Now, that said, if you're running pre-commit in CI, then the install time really matters. And you do want as fast as you can get. So I would say if you're running pre-commit hooks in CI, yeah, use Prec. But I like the idea. So one of the things that they've got some cool improvements anyway, even if it's just not speed. So it's faster to download, but it's they want it to be completely as a drop-in. So everywhere you would say pre-commit, you would just say Prec, and that's cool. So you don't have to learn something new. Kind of a cheat code on their part too. They don't have to write documentation or too much documentation. It's just everything it did. But there's some cool things that they didn't like about pre-commit that they fixed. So you can do a dash dash directory, and it runs hooks for the specified directory. Apparently, there was an old thing of ls files in a dir and then pass it to xargs to pre-commit. Oh, that's painful. So cool that you can pass it on a directory. Also, you can say run dash dash last commit. So after you've committed, you're like, oh, what were my pre-commit? I forgot to run them. You can run that. That's pretty neat. And then you can actually select hooks. That's pretty neat. And then if you forgot what all the hooks are that you've installed and what they do, there's a list command that looks at the available hooks and IDs and descriptions. Pretty cool. I like that. Or just run a specific hook if you want to run a specific. These are actually great additions, and pre-commit might want to think about putting those in. But I liked it.
If they're gonna all right, you're gonna steal our API CLI interface, we're gonna steal back some good ideas.
Yeah, why not? One of the things to speed up that I thought was a cool idea was if they're already implementing things in Rust, there's a whole bunch of common ones that can be go ahead and put those in to Prec directly. And so there's a handful of them so far. This is a fairly new project, so it could be that these are faster. I actually kind of like one of the reasons why I'm highlighting this isn't just so that we can talk about something faster for pre-commit, but it's yet another Rust tool that has been rewritten in Rust that might be a good example. And this is sort of looking at a bunch of files and parsing files. And that's a pretty common thing that Python's not bad at, but not fast at, and Rust is fast. So here's another good example for taking a look at it. So end of file checks. One of the things that the fix end of file thing, and that's with making sure there's a end of file indicator at the end of I don't know what that checks for actually, but trailing white space, for instance, there's trailing white space, and then there's whether you have new lines or carriage returns and stuff. A lot of these checks, I noticed that rough. I rely on rough, so I would love to hear from people of while you're now using rough and pre-commit hooks, what pre-commits hooks are you using that aren't already built into rough and things like that? So if anybody's got a list of that, I'd love to see that. So that's it. I did want to shout out also to Viet. I think Veit. Sorry, Veit. However you pronounce your name, Veit. Recommended that if you're going to check the timing, he listed on Blue Sky, and we're going to link to this, a command line to clear out the cache if you want to time the cold cache times.
Oh yeah, that's cool to clear the cache just to check. You want to actually see the performance of CI options.
Yeah,
I believe it is Bytes Scheile. It's Deutsch.
Okay.
So because the V's are F's and so on. But this is just guessing. Sorry if we messed up your name, Fight. A couple thoughts. This looks really cool. First of all, I love it. Good find, and thanks for the recommendation, folks. You said it, you saved half a second. I bet you that half a second is primarily Python startup time versus Rust startup time. And the reason I say that is I've got this little text transformation tool that I run all of the time. And what it needs, I built it as a Rumps app and as a CLI app because I just run it all the time. And if I have like let's say a show title, right? Number 448, whatever the show title is, that's text. I got to turn that into a MP3 file name. So I'll run this thing that I'll say turn into like a valid HTML or URL slug. So drop all the punctuation, put dashes so there's not spaces between it, like that kind of stuff. And it'll do like uppercase, lowercase, capital case, trim the white space off of like whatever's in the clipboard, and then just puts it back in the clipboard. The execution time of that is basically 0, right? It reads from the clipboard. It processes typically like 30 characters of text, and then it puts it back. And it's so fast. But it takes like a second or maybe 0.7 seconds from when I go to the terminal and I type that and hit enter, I wait, and boom, out comes the answer. And I'm sure that it's basically the startup of all the Python stuff to do the one really, really short thing and going away. The reason I bring that up is I think the shorter the actual execution time of the pre-commit hooks, the faster, the bigger of an influence this will have, right? So you gained like what? An eighth speed up or a fourth speed up or something like that, right? But if your actual pre-commit hooks were just run rough and then run something else that was like insanely fast, I bet you would notice a percentage difference more than that.
Yeah, probably. But I also like the notion that this is extendable, and so you can contribute to the project and add these filters yourself to have extra checks be able to put in. So
yeah, that's super cool.
And then you can avoid, because no matter like you said, even no matter what you're doing. So Prec is also running Python as well, because a lot of the hooks are Python code. So it's got to, for each of the hooks, it's got to start Python for that hook as well. So yeah. Anyway. All right.
Yeah, maybe the more hooks you have as well. Interesting. And the less built in.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really want to cover such a big topic, Brian. Let's just cover something tiny. Something small, something tiny IO. So we all know about async IO. And one of my, I wrote the State of Python 2025 article that we talked about previously, right?
Yeah.
And one of my big areas of focus was we're all going to have to get better at concurrency, right? We have free threaded Python coming full throated in 3.14. And we've always had async and await, but it's as we get more GIL-less execution, you end up actually with like parallel code execution, not just something waiting on IO somewhere, that kind of thing, right? And those kinds of things can be pretty tricky. So Patrick Kidger wrote this thing called Tiny IO, and it's I don't know, a bit of a jab, but it says, hey, have you ever used async IO and wished you hadn't? Well, here's a 300-line implementation of async IO event loop in Python that is simpler, right? So basically the idea is I want to just run some async IO, async and await like code and have it do async and async IO type of things. And if something goes wrong, just have it all stop. Like all the async stuff, something went wrong with this whole thing, just stop. Crash. Like don't have like cancellation and all these other things that are like complicated and like parent, child, whatever, right? Just,
yeah.
I just want to run a bunch of things. Something goes wrong. I want to stop running all the things and real simple. So that's what this tiny IO is. And you basically create a loop, you say run, you give it a coroutine, and then out comes the answer. Yeah. One thing that is weird about it, the effect is basically the same, but what is weird is that it uses yield instead of await. The reason I would love for it to use await, it seems weird that it doesn't. However, basically with yield and running a bunch of cooperative multi-threading by using the yield keyword instead allows them to just like say, that's all stuff. All this stuff stops, right? It basically gets a little bit more control over it. So it is a little unusual in that regard, but yeah, let's see what else I'm going to say. Somewhat unusual, the syntax uses yield rather than await, but the behavior is the same. Await any coroutine with yield coroutine, await multiple with yield given a list of coroutines, which is kind of nice, like a gather async terminology and nursery and trio terminology. And here's kind of what I was saying. Error in one coroutine will cancel all the coroutines across the entire event loop. If the error coroutine is sequentially depended upon, then we chain their tracebacks together. Right? It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it looks kind of neat. People can check this out. I don't really know if I would use it or not over async IO, but yeah. Primarily, I think the thing is like cancellation, error propagation in like a super, super simple way. Very lightweight stuff. It's obviously not going to be super interoperable. Like you can't plug it into fast API for that because that thing already starts in an async IO event loop. Same thing for court and so on. But for little self-contained things, yeah, it could be cool. It's tiny little time.
Well, yeah. Also, just thinking about the concepts and stuff, it might be a good education thing.
Right, exactly. If you want to just see, well, what really is happening with async IO and async and await, well, it's basically this with some compiler magic on it.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Over to you.
Well, I've just noticed that we started the episode with very much overcast outside, and now I've got a bright sun, and I get this cool evil person cast on me.
Whoa. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a perfect lead in for my next topic. Keep going.
Well, so Trey Hunter put out an article called "The Power of Python's Print Function," and I'm like, I know print. I use print all the time, right? Actually, it turns out that I'm guilty of a lot of the things of ignoring a lot of the features of print. I usually just use it to print strings, right? Throw a string in there or whatever. And I knew that you could do other stuff, but I don't really use much. So let's go through some of the things that Trey wants to remind us what print can do. One of the things it can do is multiple arguments. So if you've ever went ahead and just did an F string and you're just replacing values within it, just dropping in variables right in the string, you can do that, or you can just give it multiple just put a string and a comma and the variable name and a comma and another string, and that's pretty easy too. It's not really that's a toss up. I like my F strings and I'm pretty fast at them, but one of the things you can do with that then is you can unpack, because you can have so many parameters to print. You can iterable unpacking works. So if you unpack something, say print in a star arguments or something, it's going to print everything because it'll automatically put a space between everything. And that's pretty cool. You don't need to unpack them yourself. And I've been guilty of doing that, of doing like a space dot split, whatever. Or no, here it is, the join. Join your arguments or join an iterable with space. And yeah, you don't have to do that. So you can just use print. Another thing is you don't have to just rely on space. You can pass in a separator value. So maybe you want a colon or a comma or something else separating things. You can go ahead and just pass that in as print takes a separator value. That's neat. I guess I never realized that. You can print to a file, of course. I've done that. But also I've also just relied on, with open file as file, print it to the file. But you can just you can do that. You can print it to a file, so that's pretty easy. But you can also print directly file equals standard error and print to the error. Customizing the end value, and I've done that, of course. But the end value, I didn't realize you could do this. The end and the flush. Actually, I use both of those. So the end, like the separator, is between elements, but at the end, maybe you did the separator as a space, but you want like a new line, or you want like more, you want like a whole bunch of dashes or something at the end. You can pass that in, or
Yeah,
a
I
couple,
use that one a
couple
lot.
new lines.
I'll put like a comma instead of a new line so I can just have it all wrap over and maybe, I don't know, I want to paste into Excel or something.
Yeah. And then one of the things I do use a lot is this the flush. So you can pass in flush equals true if you're, especially if you're deep print debugging and you're doing it real time. You really want to see it right away, and you don't want it to just sit in the buffer. You can do flush equals true, and it'll as soon as you print anything, it'll pop out. So
Yeah,
uh,
I do that too, especially for print debugging. You're right.
and this is a pretty simple topic, but I've got a whole bunch of extras, so I wanted to make room for extras. So thanks, Trey, for reminding us how cool print is. All right.
Yeah, and Pat's got a cool little add-on thought here. Pat Decker says, "I use the end value to print things over top the last one without a new line, and then when something happens, proceed to the next line." Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
Interesting.
Yes, indeed.
Bwahaha.
Okay, well, let's talk about the next one. This is going to be good. All right, I want to start with a positive angle before I take you down the dark side.
Okay.
So I think I already talked about this last time. I talked about converting the web design of TalkPython to Bulma. Did I talk about that? And maybe Python Bytes is
A
next.
while ago, yeah.
Yeah, that was an insane amount of work to change all of this around. It was probably 5,000 lines of CSS and HTML, not just changing tags, but like completely restructuring grid layouts to Flexbox. And it was gnarly. And I used agentic AI on that, and it was amazing. It took hours instead of weeks, and it was definitely something that pushed it from like not worth the time, even though I'm using 10-year-old web technology. I really hate designing with it. It's just going to stay that way because changing it is too much work, to, well, what else am I? I'm a little too tired for other stuff this afternoon, so let's try this. You know what I mean? And so anyway, that is a good side of agentic AI, right? There's like, okay, get in there, just amplify what I need to do. A lot of times it's really interesting how it pushes something over that, like, that's too much work. It's not worth my time or energy or whatever, to like, actually, I could totally do that now and really let you solve some problems that have been like nagging or more ambitious. But it can go too far, Brian, and here we go. So we've got over on PC Mag by Emily Forlini, Vibe Coding Fiasco. I don't put down what I was doing as vibe coding, but it's in the same category. It's the same tools, let's say. Vibe Coding Fiasco. AI agent goes rogue, deletes company's entire database. Okay. This is like a lesson, and let me be the warning for you rather than, you making these same mistakes sort of thing. So an agentic AI doing the heavy lifting is great, as I just described, until it deletes everything. And what's really funny is like the AI, it even knew it. It was like a bad dog that like couldn't resist, got up on the table and ate the steak while you were like setting the table. The AI admits this was a catastrophic error in my judgment. So, all right, let's go through it real quick. All right, so there's this person, Jason Lemkin, was using Replit. Now, I don't use Replit. This is like coding in the cloud, and like I absolutely hate that stuff so much. I can't tell you how much I don't like programming in browsers. I'd rather have like a proper IDE and a file system, run it locally or maybe in Docker. Nonetheless, some people like that feel, right? Like, I don't have to set anything up. I'll just log in my web browser and code. And now this has agentic AI, so let's just have it go. So there's a couple of lessons here. So he said it worked great for a week. When it works, it's so engaging and fun. It's more addictive than any video game I've ever played. Like, haven't even touched WoW for a week. You can just iterate, and see your vision come. It's so cool, he tweeted. Well, our friend maybe didn't understand the concept of database backups, snapshots, these kinds of things, okay? So it said it created an in parallel fake algorithm with telling me it was like doing some other things. And without asking me, it went rogue. A few days later, it deleted my database, Lemkin tweeted. The AI's response: yes, I deleted the entire code base without permission during an active code and action freeze. It said, I made a catastrophic error in judgment and panicked. Can you believe it? It's amazing. So the Replit founder and CEO confirmed, indeed, it did in fact do this, and we are in fact Sorry. So, what should you do? Should you not use AI coding? Well, maybe. Here's some thoughts from Michael. Maybe don't use run everything unmonitored or without confirmation in production. I think it's fine to run it on your dev machine. Like if you have backups on for your computer, like how bad can it possibly go, right? But in production, they were running, hey, AI agent, go do that thing, and I'll be back after lunch. Just go for it. Item two.
No.
Item two is maybe you back up your database periodically. I just backed up Python Bytes this morning to an encrypted drive. Maybe don't just run AI on your only copy of data. And three, learn to code a bit, maybe. So you can give it a little bit. You actually know what it's doing. It doesn't just go off rogue and you just keep jabbing it until your data's gone. So
okay, well, I'm sort of new to a lot of this. We've talked about it a lot, but I'm just starting to do utilize it some. Can't you tell it like don't of certain commands you can't do, like don't commit anything to
I believe you can have we're talking about a whole bunch of different products and services as if like they all have the same, like they must. So like Cursor and Claude Code and those things, you can have a rules file, or you can have like authorized or disallowed commands. You can run it in like get action verification from me every time when it says I'm going to run this ls command. Can I? Yes. I'm going to run this git command. Can I? Yes. I'm going to run this rmrf command. Can I? No. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe it's not of like your whole drive. Maybe it like made, because a lot of times it'll make these little like, I asked it to update this little git utility that I have. It created a subdirectory in there. It initialized a git repository and did a bunch of stuff to make sure like it could detect the things it was supposed to detect. And then it ran rm-rf to get rid of its working content, which is what you want, but not on like the root or user root. So I basically have switched to just allow it to do whatever on my computer. But I would not ever do that in production. Like I wouldn't code in production in the first place. But second, I mean, you also could connect Visual Studio Code or one of those things to your server and just start writing. Like, why do I even need Git? That stuff sucks. I'll just write it right here on the server. Like, no, don't do that. Definitely don't do it on AI. But I believe that the repl thing, because it only exists up there, is a little bit of a different deal. And I don't know if it has these like allow commands or not allow commands. I've never used repl. Like I said, I don't like those things.
Okay. Yeah.
But still a funny story, right? And I love how it's like, I love how it's like, I made a catastrophic error in judgment and I panicked. That's really AI.
What's funny is like, what was the delete? The deleting the database was probably the panic reaction, not the catastrophic error. And decided to just remove all evidence.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Oh my God, I've screwed up and I've changed the data wrong. Delete. I don't know. But
wasn't me.
It's
it's funny.
Yeah, these are weird times. These are truly weird times, but also kind of amazing times we live in.
Yeah. I think we're on to extras. Right?
Indeed. Go for it.
All right. I've got some AI related extras. Let's see. Remove ad. Some kind of, I guess, mixed results. Mixed. I don't know what everybody thinks about this, but Anthropic settlement. Anthropic was using pirated books to train. So there's a settlement, and I am linking to an Authors Guild article about it. What authors need to know about the $1.5 billion Anthropic settlement. That's a lot of money, but so what is it? So apparently they have to pay the authors back some money for pirated books, but it's not clear as to what. So there's I'm linking this because it took me a while to find. There's a lot of articles about it. I wanted to know, as an author, what should I care about? And the gist is, it's still in process, and there's they're going to pay out people apparently 3,000 per title. I don't know if it goes to the publisher or the author or what. I don't know that detail yet. Um, there's a and there's a list. There's a list. There's not a list yet. They're supposed to come up with a list of books that they copied. So, but one of the places they copied from was I can't remember, is LibGen. So a couple of things I'm gonna the Atlantic did an article a while back about Meta pirating using pirated books using AI. So the Atlantic put together a list of authors and books that I'm going to link to also, so you can look at yours. And I went ahead and stuck my name in, and to to see if I was part of the breed or the pirated books. And of course, yes, my the first, at least the first edition. Not sure if both of them. Python
It's like
testing
you
the
won the
PyTest.
lottery. You're getting $1.5 billion.
No, possibly 3,000, but I may get zero because I might that book. This isn't it just because you're in LibGen doesn't mean that Anthropic grabbed it. I guess is what I'm saying. So we have to. You don't know, but there's also a link in this. What authors should know. There's a link. Let me try to find it. I'm not going to link to it because it's in here. There's an Anthropic copyright settlement that you can go to and uh, stick your contact information just to make sure you get notified. So I might do that, might not. I don't know. Anyway, so there's that's extra about pirated books with Anthropic, and I think that more of these lawsuits actually should happen. I don't think it was cool that
I think
people.
they absolutely should, and I think they're going to. There actually are a bunch going on right now, like Getty Images and others are suing different AI people. The New York Times were suing. I Even though I just said very positive things about agentic coding and LLMs, I think all of the ways that all of these people, all of these AI companies have gotten their data is straight up copyright theft.
Yeah,
They've gone to all of our works, they've just downloaded them and said, we're just going to take that. And regardless of whether they were allowed to, this is especially egregious because it's like we went to a place where they have literally pirated books and we're going to use that. I mean, like it wasn't just they found it on the internet. They went to a place where the stolen stuff is and grabbed it. So this is easier.
yeah. It's interesting that, and they did that, and then they figured out that that wasn't all the books, so they wanted every book. So they actually went after the fact, after they stole a bunch of stuff, or used a bunch of pirated stuff. They went off and then paid some publishers, so they got access to some books through publishers agreements. And again, good luck if authors got any of that money. um, but uh, but that was done. So they if they were willing to pay it, they knew that it was copyrighted stuff. And also everything on the internet is copyrighted, unless you say this is Creative Commons or something. uh,
MIT or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and even Creative Commons is not copyright free. It is a copyright. It is Creative Commons copyright. Anyway, move on a little bit because there's more fun stuff. Um, One of our favorite people to play with AI is Simon Willison, and he's done a whole bunch of cool stuff with LLMs, and he's got a list of tools that I'm going to link to. A list of tools that he's used, miscellaneous tools built mostly with the help of the LLMs. So I'm gonna go ahead and link to that because it's pretty impressive. But he recently said a lot of people complain that these are kind of small, silly utilities. But hey, silly utilities is a great thing to use LLMs for. But he highlighted some with a recent blog post, a collection of tools that he feels are genuinely useful and worth highlighting with some descriptions. So go ahead and link to that because it's a fun. I wanted something positive. I do think that the work Simon's doing is really great. So, but a lot of people are not Simon. A lot of people do bad things with AI. So I also wanted to link to the AI Darwin Awards, which there's a bunch of nominees for horrible things people are doing with AI, and it's sort of funny. There's this is funny, but also it's serious. And I'm going to highlight a couple of them. One of them apparently McDonald's AI chatbot had some problems, and you there was a default password of 1234556 that didn't take people long to figure out, which is insane that they use that as their admin password. And this one I heard about earlier this year. This showed up in, was it it's a list of literary fiction about fiction, so a summer reading list. And where did this showed up in the Chicago Sun-Times and somewhere else. 15 book recommendations for summer reading. Only 5 of those books were real, and nobody caught it before it got published in 2 places. This is insane. Some of the authors contacted, is Washington Post and Chicago Sun-Times. Some of the authors contacted the newspaper and said, "I didn't write that book, so I don't know why you listed it." That's hilarious. So.
Well, maybe they should on the happy 20th anniversary birthday for Django Talk Python episode. We're talking with them, and there's something that was being recommended so often to be used as a Django feature or function that like they couldn't make it stop, so they just added it. It's like, fine, it's going to do it then. So they could just write the book. They're like, look, you know what? This is like #1 for the summer reading list. Let me quick write that book.
That's good. Let's get, and have some AI write it for me.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea, but yeah, it's hard to write a book in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, if AI can write your summer reading list, it can write your book.
All right. Those are my extras.
All right. Super. Okay. I got a few. Anthony Shaw, friend of the show, wrote a really nice article called Python has had async for 10 years. Why isn't it more popular? Really cool article. Check that out. He's got a lot of interesting ideas there. It also made it to like #2 on Hacker News and had 323 upvotes and almost 300 comments. So it's got quite a bit of introspection here, and some of the thoughts are just idiots from like the Go community. Like, well, Go does it right, so like that's why Python was wrong. It doesn't do it like Go. It's like, okay, I'm not sure how constructive that is. So maybe the next bit of feedback is more relevant, but still, like it's got some interesting comments and thoughts in there. So I'll link to that, and then obviously it like bumps over to the main article by Mr. Shaw. Last weekend I was on the PyCon Africa fundraiser, which was a 4-hour, 33-minute, and 3-second live stream conference panel type sort of deal. I was on for the last 90 minutes. So Carlton Gibson and some Sheena and Kim Van Wyck, friend of the show as well, sort of kicked it off, if I remember that correctly. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. People can check it out. They link to a Support PyCon Africa if you want to make donations to help them get to a goal. Basically, a bunch of funding ran out. Like the PSF said, hey, well, sure, we'll give out some grants. And there was like way more demand than they realized, like, oh my goodness, we can't give that much help. I think it's more or less the short version. So you check that out. I'll link to that. And then, yeah, I just I'm down to jokes. A joke. I'll let you do the last joke. I'll do the second to last joke. It's almost fall, but not really. I mean, maybe it is, but it's going to be a warm day. As you pointed out, the sun is out. You got your lookout, right? So, I mean, what a better time for like an icy or something? A Slurpee, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I can't zoom on it. So, there's the Mountain Dew Freeze. There's some kind of Fanta or something that's just off screen that's green. They got the blue. And then there's one next to it that is like the crashed boot sequence of Ubuntu or some Linux embed. And these are like the little pictures that show you like what flavor it is. So the dark blue one here, and the subtitle is, "Bro, I'm getting the BIOS flavor." And the comments are great. Because down here you go a little bit, he goes, wait, it's System D flavor. He goes, man, that looks like Linux flavor to me. That's System D. Anyway, and well, there's your proof. Penguins make the best slushies. Okay, now you know that's the Linux
Oh, it's
For
fresh pseudo Slurpee.
fresh pseudo Slurpee. What flavor of Linux is that? Is that mint or cinnamon? I mean, it's so good. It just keeps going. Bro, I'm getting the BIOS flavor. I love it.
I get, but okay, so we've got like, I mean, cool that you can program the image in the Slurpee machine, but maybe, I mean, we just had like little pieces of plastic in there when I was a kid, lighting up what flavor of Slurpee it was. It's just,
No, not anymore. We don't. I mean, it's just like it's technology gone too far. You literally could get like a transparent, translucent color thing with a backlight and just slot it in there.
yeah.
I don't know.
It could
I
just
guess
be white, even with like a grease pen to just tell people what flavor it is.
yeah, just some masking tape and a Sharpie.
Yeah.
I guess you don't have to ship around. If you got a new flavor with a new logo, you don't have to ship like 1,000 little plates around. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it makes for good jokes. I'm getting the Linux flavor.
That's the reason. Yeah. All right. I have an AI related joke, which so let's hop over to that. So there's somebody, Grace on Blue Sky posted interaction with ChatGPT, and this is fun to do. Is there a seahorse emoji? And ChatGPT crashes out. It says yes. Tropical fish. There is a seahorse emoji. Tropical fish, unicorn. Actual correction. There is a dedicated seahorse emoji. Tropical fish, dolphin. But the true seahorse emoji is tropical fish. Nope. Wait. I'm not going to read all of this, but it crashes out. It finally says that maybe it thinks the crab is. It's not. Maybe the mollusk or the seal. Anyway, it's a funny interaction. So I'm like, is this real? And a lot of people posted that they tried it out, so I wanted to try it out. I tried it out on ChatGPT just this morning. Not 5. I don't know whatever the default is if you just log in.
Yeah, auto. I think. Yeah.
It also crashed out. It's like, oh yeah, that's a unicorn. No, one more try, lobster. None of these are. And then, but it did at the end. It said, would you like to suggest the seahorse emoji to the Unicode consortium? I can show you how. So,
I'm sure those people will appreciate this comment, this meme. Dude, I got 700 emails in my inbox this morning. What's going on?
So I'm like, maybe it's just ChatGPT's bad. What's Claude do? So I tried it on Claude AI, and it didn't crash out for very long. It said yes, there is. It gave me the unicorn. I said, wait, I made an error. That's actually the unicorn emoji. The seahorse emoji is horse. Actually, let me correct myself again. That's the horse emoji. But then it says, I don't think there is. And it gave up really fast. So
yeah, you got to look at the fine print down there. It says, wait, I made a catastrophic error and panicked. I've emptied the ocean.
Yeah, anyway.
No. It does suggest that you could potentially combine a horse and a water wave emoji. It's kind of creative.
I probably would do it the other way around, of like the water wave plus horse.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe water on both sides of the horse. I don't know. Oh, Marco's really nailed it out in the audience. I'd use a wave plus unicorn for the narwhal. Like a narwhal sort of equivalent. Yeah, very nice.
Anyway, it's fun with ChatGPT. So
yeah, again, we live in weird and amazing times. So weird. All right. Very fun episode. Thanks for being here as always, Brian. Catch you later.
bye.
Bye.